I sat in my truck outside our house, staring at the warm glow of the living room window. Inside, my wife was laughing. Not just a chuckle. A deep belly laugh, the kind she used to reserve for me. I hadn't heard that sound in months. Maybe longer. I should have walked inside. Should have gone about my night like I always did. But something in that laugh felt off. Too full. Too free. And worst of all, too intimate. I reached for my phone and pulled up the home security app. We had cameras set up around the house, not because I didn't trust her, but because break-ins were common in our neighborhood. I tapped on the live feed for the living room. My stomach twisted. She wasn't alone. A man sat on our couch, a drink in his hand, legs spread like he owned the place. And my wife was curled up next to him, her hand resting on his thigh like it belonged there. I stared, my breath stuck somewhere in my chest. My mind refused to process what I was seeing. Then she leaned in, her lips brushing against his ear as she whispered something. He grinned. She laughed. My vision blurred with pure, burning rage. I turned off the feed and stepped out of my truck. My hands were steady, my steps controlled, but inside I was boiling. I wasn't the type to lose my temper. I was the calm one, the problem solver. But right now I was ready to set the whole goddamn world on fire. I pushed the front door open and walked in. Silence. They hadn't heard me. She was still pressed up against him, her fingers tracing patterns on his knee. I could hear her soft murmur, the way she spoke to him like he was the only man in the world. Something in me snapped. Having fun? The words cut through the air like a blade. She jerked back so fast she nearly fell off the couch. The man, some smug, middle-aged idiot with too much cologne, looked at me, his face shifting from amusement to panic. And my wife? She blinked. Then, unbelievably, she smiled. "You're home early," she said, like I was the one intruding. I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Yeah, guess I ruined the mood." The guy stood up, rubbing his hands on his jeans like that would wipe away the guilt. "I should go." "You should run," I corrected. He hesitated, probably weighing his odds. Then he grabbed his jacket and practically sprinted out the door. I turned back to her. She was watching me, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Not ashamed. Not guilty. Just annoyed. "You want to explain?" I asked, my voice too calm for the storm inside me. She sighed, rubbing her temples like I was the problem here. "Look, I didn't want you to find out like this." I laughed again, sharp and humorless. "Oh, that makes it better? You were gonna tell me when exactly? Before or after you screwed him in our bed?" Her expression darkened. "Jesus, don't be so dramatic." Dramatic. She really said that. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "How long?" She rolled her eyes. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." She held my gaze for a long second. Then she shrugged. A while. That was it. No remorse. No apology. Just those two words, tossed at me like crumbs to a starving dog. Something inside me broke. I looked around at the life we built, the framed photos, the furniture we picked out together, the home we were supposed to share. It all felt fake, like a stage set for a play I wasn't even part of anymore. I exhaled slowly, shoving my hands into my pockets so I wouldn't do something I'd regret. "You know what? You're right. It doesn't matter." Her eyebrows lifted. "Wait, what?" I stepped back, already feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. "It's over," she scoffed. "Oh, come on. You're seriously gonna throw everything away over this?" I stared at her, at the woman I thought I knew. "You already threw it away." For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered across her face. "You're not actually leaving." I smiled. A real, genuine smile. The first one in a long time. "Watch me." And just like that, I walked out the door. I didn't take anything with me. No bags, no clothes, not even my phone charger. I just walked out the door, climbed into my truck, and drove. She didn't follow me. She didn't call my name, didn't beg me to stay. Nothing. And that silence, that complete lack of a reaction, hit harder than any screaming match ever could. I drove for hours, my mind racing faster than the speedometer. I wasn't even sure where I was going, just away. The weight of it all pressed down on my chest, making it harder to breathe the farther I got from that house. Not our house. Hers. I wasn't sure when it had stopped being mine, but now that I was gone, I knew I could never step foot in that place again. At some point, exhaustion took over and I pulled into a motel parking lot on the outskirts of some nowhere town. The neon vacancy sign flickered above me, buzzing like an insect trapped in a light. Inside, the receptionist barely looked up as she slid a key across the counter. I muttered a thanks and headed to my room, collapsing onto the stiff mattress. The silence stretched. I closed my eyes, hoping for sleep, but my mind wouldn't shut off. I kept replaying every moment in that living room. The way she touched him. The way she smiled. The way she didn't care that I caught her. And then, the worst part, her voice in my head. That dismissive, casual "does it matter?" A cold rage settled deep in my stomach. I had been a good husband. I worked hard. I provided. I never gave her a reason to doubt me, to stray, to look for something else. And yet it wasn't enough. Or maybe I wasn't enough. I sat up, running a hand through my hair, trying to shake the thought. No. Screw that. This wasn't on me. She made her choice. Now I had to make mine. The first step was simple: divorce. I'd contact a lawyer first thing in the morning, figure out my next move from there. But the second step, that was the hard part. Our son. My stomach twisted. I needed to talk to him. I needed to explain. He deserved that much. I pulled out my phone and hesitated. What if she had already gotten to him? What if she had spun some version of the truth that made me the bad guy? No. He was old enough to understand. I pressed his number, my hands clammy against the phone. It rang once. Twice. Then hello. His voice was groggy, thick with sleep. Guilt surged through me. I hadn't even checked the time. I swallowed hard. Hey, bud. It's me. A pause. Dad? Yeah. My voice felt foreign, strained. I know it's late. I exhaled, pinching the bridge of my nose. How the hell do you tell your kid that his mother is a lying, cheating? I cleared my throat. Things are gonna change. Your mom and I, my voice wavered. We're not gonna be together anymore. Silence. Then quietly, I know. My grip tightened on the phone. You know? He let out a breath, and for the first time, I noticed the exhaustion in his voice. The kind that didn't come from just being woken up. The kind that came from carrying something heavy for too long. Dad, he said, slow, careful. I'm not stupid. I blinked. Wait, how long? Does it matter? My stomach dropped. The words were the same, but the voice was different. Not hers, his, and yet they hit just as hard. I rubbed a hand down my face. Yeah, bud, it does. Another pause. Then softer. A while. That same vague, indifferent answer. Something in my chest cracked. He knew. He had known for a while. And he hadn't said anything. God, I had been walking around, clueless, while my own son carried this secret on his back. I wanted to tell you, he admitted. But, he hesitated. I didn't know how. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I get it. And I did. Too damn well. Where are you? I glanced around the dingy motel room. Not home. Another beat of silence. Are you coming back? I hesitated. I don't know. And that was the truth. Because the more I thought about it, the more I realized maybe leaving wasn't just a reaction. Maybe it was the right move. Maybe this wasn't just about her, or the betrayal, or the marriage. Maybe I had been lost for a long time. And maybe it was time to start over. Okay, my son said finally, his voice unreadable. Good night, Dad. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Good night, bud. I ended the call and stared at the ceiling. Everything I thought I knew about my life had crumbled in a single night. And somehow I had a feeling the worst was still ahead. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating on the motel nightstand. It took me a second to remember where I was. Stale air, stiff mattress, dim light bleeding through the ugly curtains. Right? Not home. I grabbed my phone and glanced at the screen. Her. I stared at her name flashing across the screen, my finger hovering over the decline button. What the hell did she want? An apology? A second chance? Some half-baked excuse about how it wasn't what it looked like? I let it ring out. A minute later, a text came through. We need to talk. I let out a short laugh. Now she wanted to talk? Last night, she couldn't be bothered. Last night, she treated it like it was just some minor inconvenience. Like I was the unreasonable one for walking out. Another buzz. Don't do anything stupid. I clenched my jaw. Stupid, right? Because I'm the problem here. Because I'm the one who spent months sneaking around behind my spouse's back. I tossed the phone onto the bed and headed for the bathroom. I needed a shower, coffee, and a damn lawyer. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a law office, trying to keep my emotions in check while a man in a cheap suit explained how much of my life I was about to lose. Since the house is in both names, you'll need to either negotiate a buyout or sell and split the proceeds. Given the length of the marriage, expect spousal support to be a factor, especially if I wasn't listening. I was too busy staring at the framed certificates on the wall, thinking about how unfair all of this was. She cheated. She destroyed the marriage. So why the hell did I have to be the one bleeding money over it? The lawyer must have noticed my silence because he leaned back and folded his hands. I know this feels overwhelming, but the sooner we start the process, the better. I exhaled slowly. What about my son? He nodded. You have rights. But since he's almost an adult, custody battles usually don't get messy at this stage. The bigger concern is your financial split, right? Money, assets, the things that actually mattered in court. Not loyalty, not betrayal, not the fact that I spent years building a life with someone who didn't give a damn about me. I ran a hand down my face. Fine, draft the papers. I walked out of the office feeling like I had just signed away a part of myself. But there was no time to dwell on it, because when I checked my phone, I had 5 missed calls. All from my son. My stomach clenched. I called him back immediately, my pulse hammering in my ears. He answered on the first ring. Dad? His voice was tight. Stressed. What's wrong? A pause. Then, barely above a whisper, she's lying about you. I went still. What? She's telling everyone you abandoned us, he said, words rushing out in a panic. She's saying you had some midlife crisis and just took off. That you left me behind without even saying goodbye. I gritted my teeth. You know that's not true. I do, he said quickly. But Dad, people are believing her. My grandparents, my uncles, they're all taking her side. They think you just left. I felt a cold rage crawl up my spine. Of course she would try to spin this into my fault. It wasn't enough that she betrayed me, now she had to rewrite the whole damn narrative to make herself the victim. Dad, my son said, voice low, what are you gonna do? I exhaled through my nose, steadying my voice. I'm coming back. Not to her. Not to that house. But to set the record straight. Because if she wanted a war, she was about to get one. I drove back into town with a fury simmering in my chest, my grip tightening around the steering wheel. I hadn't planned on returning, not this soon, maybe not ever, but if she thought she could rewrite history while I was gone, she had another thing coming. The streets looked the same. The same gas station on the corner. The same coffee shop where I used to pick up our morning orders. The same quiet neighborhood where kids played on their front lawns, completely unaware that their parents whispered about me behind closed doors. Because that's exactly what was happening. The moment I parked outside my son's school, I saw it. The stairs. The way a couple of parents turned away, whispering in hushed tones. A few looked at me like I was some kind of stranger, like they weren't sure whether to acknowledge me or pretend I didn't exist. She'd worked fast. I ignored them and focused on my son, who was already walking toward me, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept much. Hey, I said as he slid into the passenger seat. He sighed, rubbing his temples. It's bad, Dad. I started driving, waiting for him to explain. She told everyone you just left, no explanation, no warning, he said, his voice bitter. She's acting like the victim, saying you abandoned us. He scoffed. She even cried about it in front of Grandma and Grandpa. I clenched my jaw. Cried. Like she wasn't the one sneaking around with another man in our house. Like she wasn't the reason I walked away in the first place. Did she tell them why I left? I asked. He hesitated. She says it was because of personal issues. I laughed. Sharp and humorless. Yeah, her personal issues. She's been telling everyone you've been distant for months. He muttered. That you just snapped. Of course. She wasn't just making herself the victim. She was making me the villain. The unstable, unreliable husband who cracked under pressure and ran away. I gritted my teeth. Did anyone question it? He shrugged. Uncle Mike asked about you, but Mom shut him down fast. She's controlling the whole story, and people believe her. I exhaled slowly, steadying my anger. Not for long. We pulled into a parking lot. I needed a minute to think, to plan my next move. My son followed me into a nearby diner, the kind with faded booths and a bell that jingled when you walked in. The waitress barely glanced at us as we slid into a corner seat. I leaned forward. Listen, I need to know. How much do you want to be involved in this? He frowned. What do you mean? I mean, this is going to get messy. I don't want you caught in the crossfire. He let out a humorless laugh. Dad, I've been in the crossfire. I stared at him. She dragged me into this the moment she started lying, he said. And you were gone, Dad. I had to sit there and listen to it. I had to watch everyone turn against you. Guilt twisted in my gut. I had thought leaving was the right move, that I was protecting myself, protecting my sanity. But I hadn't thought about how it would look from the outside, how easily she could twist the story while I was absent. I leaned back, rubbing a hand down my face. I need to talk to your grandparents. His eyebrows shot up. Are you sure? Mom's already poisoned them against you. I nodded. That's why I have to go. I'm not letting her turn my own family against me. His expression was uncertain, but he didn't argue. I took a sip of coffee, feeling my anger settle into something sharper. Something focused. She thought she won. She thought she could lie her way out of this. She was about to find out how wrong she was. I parked outside my in-laws' house, my heart pounding like a war drum. The place was familiar, suffocatingly so. The porch where we had 4th of July barbecues. The big oak tree my son used to climb. The front door I had walked through 1,000 times as a husband, a father, a part of this family. Yeah? I was just the outsider. I stepped out of the truck, my jaw tight. My son hesitated, still in the passenger seat, gripping the strap of his backpack like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. You don't have to come in, I told him. He looked at me, something unreadable in his expression. Yeah, I do. I nodded once, then turned toward the house. The second I knocked, I heard movement inside. A shadow passed behind the curtain. They knew I was here. They were deciding whether to open the door or pretend they weren't home. Then, slowly, the door creaked open. My mother-in-law stood there, her lips pressed into a tight line. She had always been a strong woman, but now she just looked tired. You have a lot of nerve showing up here, she said, her voice cool. I didn't flinch. We need to talk. She didn't move, didn't invite me in. Just stood there, her eyes flickering to my son, who shifted uncomfortably beside me. Finally, after a long pause, she stepped back. Fine, come in. The living room felt like enemy territory. My father-in-law sat in his recliner, arms crossed, expression unreadable. My mother-in-law perched on the couch and my wife's brother, Uncle Mike, stood in the corner, his jaw clenched. My son and I sat across from them, the air thick with tension. You disappeared, my mother-in-law said. Vanished in the middle of the night. And you expect us to just sit here and listen to you? I exhaled slowly. I left because she cheated on me. Silence. Then you what? Mike's head snapped toward me. I clenched my jaw. She's been sleeping with someone else. For months. My mother-in-law's face hardened. She said you left because you didn't love her anymore. That you abandoned her and your son. I scoffed. Right? Because that sounds exactly like something I'd do. Mike was still staring at me, his expression shifting from anger to something like realization. She cheated? I nodded. I caught her. Saw it with my own eyes. My father-in-law hadn't said a word. He was staring at the floor, his fingers tightening on the arms of his chair. Did you even try to work things out? My mother-in-law demanded. Did you even talk to her? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Did she tell you how she acted when I confronted her? How she didn't deny it? How she just shrugged it off like it was nothing? She went quiet. I leaned forward, my voice steady. She lied to you. She lied to everyone. My father-in-law finally spoke, his voice low. Why didn't you come to us? I hesitated. Because I didn't think you'd believe me. More silence. And then she wouldn't do that, my mother-in-law whispered. Mike let out a slow breath. Yeah, she would. She turned sharply. Michael, no, Mom. He looked her in the eye. You know how she is. How she always twists things to make herself look innocent. She swallowed hard but didn't argue. I exhaled. I'm not here to make you pick sides. I'm here because I'm not letting her turn my own son against me. At that, my father-in-law looked up, his gaze settling on my son. Is it true? My son nodded, his voice quiet but firm. Yeah, Grandpa. She lied. Something broke in my father-in-law's face. And for the first time since I walked through that door, I saw doubt flicker in my mother-in-law's eyes. The silence in the room was suffocating. My mother-in-law sat stiffly, staring at the floor like the truth was something she could ignore if she just refused to acknowledge it. My father-in-law rubbed a hand over his face, exhaling a long, slow breath. Mike, on the other hand, looked like he was 1 second away from storming out of the house and confronting his sister himself. She told us you abandoned her, my mother-in-law finally said, but her voice lacked the sharp confidence it had before. I scoffed. Of course, she did. What was she supposed to say? That she was screwing another man in our house while I was working my ass off to keep a roof over our heads? She flinched, but I didn't soften it. I wasn't in the mood to be gentle. My son shifted beside me. Grandma, you know Dad wouldn't do that. You know him. Her eyes darted toward him, full of something I couldn't quite place. Guilt? Shame? Maybe just the sudden realization that the story she'd chosen to believe was crumbling in real time. But old habits die hard. And denial? It's a hell of a thing. I can't believe she would do that, she murmured. Not my daughter. Mike let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Really? Because I can. She turned to him, eyes narrowing. Michael, no, Mom. Stop. His voice was firm, more than I had ever heard it. We all know she's a manipulator. She's always been like this. She lies. She plays the victim. And you've let her get away with it for years. Her mouth opened, then closed. Because she knew. Deep down, she knew. I sat back in my chair, watching as realization started sinking into the room. The truth was like a wildfire. It started as a spark, but once it caught, there was no stopping it. She let me leave, I said, my voice quieter now. She didn't fight for our marriage. She didn't chase after me. She just let me go because she didn't care. Because she was relieved. My father-in-law looked at me then. Really looked at me. And I saw it, the shift. The understanding. The way the puzzle pieces had clicked into place in his mind. And just like that, I wasn't the villain anymore. My mother-in-law swallowed hard, then turned to my son. Are you okay, sweetheart? He hesitated, then shrugged. I'm just tired, Grandma. Her face crumpled just for a second. Like maybe for the first time in her life, she was realizing the damage her daughter had done. Then she nodded, standing abruptly. I need some air. She left the room without another word. Mike ran a hand down his face, exhaling sharply. Jesus. He turned to me. What are you gonna do? I stared at him. I'm not done yet. Because I wasn't just here to set the record straight with them. I was here to end this. And the next conversation I had? It was going to be with her. I didn't call ahead. I didn't text. I just drove straight to the house. Her house now. She might have thought I was gone for good. That I had slinked away like some disgraced husband too ashamed to show his face. That I had given up. She had no idea what was coming. The driveway was empty when I pulled up. No sign of him. I wasn't sure if I was relieved or disappointed. I stepped out of my truck, my boots crunching against the gravel. The house looked the same. Porch light still flickering like I had told her 100 times to fix it. The stupid wreath she always hung on the door. Even though I thought it was pointless. I let myself in. She was in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine. Her back was to me, but she must have sensed something because she didn't even flinch. Didn't turn around. Just sighed and took a sip before speaking. Didn't expect you back so soon. The casualness of it made my blood boil. You and me both, I said, shutting the door behind me. She finally turned, leaning against the counter with that same infuriating expression. Like she was bored of this already. I took a step closer. We need to talk. She raised an eyebrow. Talk? You mean you talk and I listen? I clenched my jaw. You listen for once, yeah. She rolled her eyes and set the glass down. Let me guess. You ran to my parents, hoping to turn them against me? I smiled, slow and sharp. No need. You did that all on your own. Something flickered in her face. Just for a second. Then she forced a laugh. Oh please. My mom would never take your side over mine. Maybe not. But your dad? I tilted my head. He's thinking real hard about it right now. Her lips pressed together. I took another step. Why did you lie? Her eyebrows shot up. Lie? I scoffed. You told everyone I abandoned you. That I walked out on our son. That I just left because I couldn't handle the marriage anymore. I leaned in slightly. You left out the part where I caught you shacked up with another man. She smirked. Smirked. Oh, come on. You make it sound so dramatic. I stared at her. You don't even deny it. She shrugged. Why would I? You already know the truth. So what do you want? Huh? An apology? Tears? A breakdown so you can feel like you won? She laughed, shaking her head. You always needed to be the good guy, she said, swirling the wine in her glass. The perfect husband. The stable one. It must kill you that people are seeing you differently now. I clenched my fists. You really don't give a damn, do you? She sighed, setting the glass down. I care that you're being annoying about it. My stomach turned. This was the woman I had spent years loving. This was the woman I had built a life with. I exhaled slowly. You want me to be the bad guy so bad? I nodded. Fine. I'll be the bad guy. She frowned slightly. What the hell does that mean? It means, I said, stepping back, that you don't get to control the story anymore. She folded her arms. Oh? And what exactly are you planning to do? I smiled, sharp and cold. You'll see. And with that, I walked out the door. I didn't stop walking until I was in my truck, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. She wasn't worth my anger. She wasn't worth any emotion. But damn if I didn't feel it burning through me like wildfire. I took a slow breath, staring at the house. Her house now. The place where I had built a life, only to find out it had been a lie. She thought she won. She thought she could rewrite the past, twist the truth, and come out looking innocent. That she could ruin my reputation, turn my own family against me, and move on like I had never existed. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. My lawyer's number sat there, untouched since our last meeting. I hesitated for only a second before tapping it. He answered on the second ring. Mr. Carter, he said smoothly. I assume this isn't a social call. No, I said, my voice steady. I want to take her to court. A brief pause. I see. For what, exactly? Defamation. He let out a low hum. Tricky, but not impossible. She'd have to be making claims that directly harm your reputation or career. She's telling everyone I abandoned my family. That I walked out with no warning. That I gritted my teeth. That I left my son. Another pause. Then, and you have proof she's lying? I looked out the windshield, watching as the curtains in the living room shifted slightly. She's watching me. My grip tightened on the phone. Yeah, I do. All right, he said. Then let's get to work. The next morning, I sat across from my son in a cafe, the scent of fresh coffee filling the air. His eyes were tired, like he hadn't slept well. I felt a pang of guilt. I had tried to protect him from this, but there was no way to shield him from the mess his mother had created. You okay? I asked. He shrugged. Just tired of hearing her talk about you like you're some kind of villain. I nodded, exhaling slowly. That's about to change. His eyebrows furrowed. What do you mean? I leaned forward. I'm taking her to court. His eyes widened. Wait, what? She's lying, son. And I'm not letting her get away with it. He blinked, then sat back, processing. Holy crap, he muttered. You're actually doing it. Damn right I am. A slow grin spread across his face. She's gonna lose it when she finds out. I smirked. I know. For the first time in weeks, something inside me felt lighter. Because now, the real fight was about to begin. I expected her to call the second she got the court papers. I expected rage, screaming, 100 texts filled with insults, threats, maybe even some fake tears thrown in for good measure. Instead, silence, which meant one thing. She was planning something. I knew her too well. She wasn't the type to take a hit without striking back. She was probably scrambling, twisting the story again, trying to figure out how to play this to her advantage. And that was fine. because for the first time she wasn't in control. I was at work when she finally made her move. My phone buzzed, and I glanced at the screen. A text from Mike. Turn on the news. My stomach dropped. I grabbed the remote and flipped to the local channel. And there she was, sitting across from some overly polished news anchor, looking heartbroken, playing heartbroken, a tissue in her hand, dabbing at fake tears. The headline at the bottom of the screen made my blood boil. Local woman speaks out after husband's sudden abandonment. I just want the truth to come out. I stared at the screen, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. You're kidding me, I muttered. One of my co-workers glanced over. Hey, isn't that your? Yeah, I snapped, grabbing my phone and heading outside. I barely heard what she was saying, but the parts one did catch made my skin crawl. I was blindsided when he left. One day we were a family, and the next he was just gone. I tried to reach out. I tried to understand, but he refuses to talk to me. I just want him to be honest with everyone. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. She wasn't just playing the victim. She was going all in, dragging my name through the mud in front of the whole damn town, making me look like some unstable, heartless man who walked away from his family without a second thought. And the worst part? People were eating it up. The comments started rolling in online. Some defending me, sure, but a lot of them, too many, were on her side. I knew something was off about him. He always seemed so cold. How do you just abandon your kid like that? She's so strong for speaking out. I had never felt rage like this before. Not even when I caught her cheating. Not even when she lied to my face. This was a different kind of anger. Cold. Calculated. She wanted to play dirty? Fine. I could play too. An hour later, I was sitting across from my lawyer. She went public, I said, shoving my phone across the desk so he could see the interview. He watched for a minute, then sighed. Not unexpected. I leaned forward. She just lied to an entire news station. Is that enough proof for defamation? He tapped his pen against the desk, thinking. It helps, but the key is proving damages. Have you lost anything because of this? Job opportunities, relationships, reputation, yeah, I cut in. People are turning against me. Even at work, I can feel it. People looking at me differently. He nodded. Then we moved forward. I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. Good. He hesitated. You do realize this is going to get ugly, right? I let out a humorless laugh. It already is. Because this wasn't just about clearing my name anymore. This was war. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake in my motel room, staring at the ceiling, my mind running through every possible outcome. Every lie she might tell next. Every move I had to make. She thought she had one. She thought she could bury the truth under crocodile tears and a fake sob story, and that I would just roll over and let her rewrite history. But she underestimated me. The next morning, I met my son outside his school. He climbed into the truck, looking exhausted. Mom's losing it, he muttered before I even said a word. I clenched my jaw. What happened? She's freaking out, he said, rubbing a hand over his face. She thought you'd just disappear like before. She didn't expect you to actually fight back. I smirked. Good. He huffed out a tired laugh, then glanced at me. What now? Now, I said, shifting into drive. I give her exactly what she asked for. I went public. Not with a news interview. Not with some polished, manipulative performance like hers. I posted the truth. The actual truth. Screenshots of messages. Home security footage of her with him in our living room. Texts she had sent me admitting to the affair. Back when she thought I'd stay quiet about it. I posted everything. Then, I wrote one simple message. I disappeared without a trace after divorcing my unfaithful wife. 18 years later, my son uncovered the truth. And now so will everyone else. And I let the world decide. The fallout was instant. Her carefully crafted image? Shattered. The sympathy she had soaked up like a sponge? Gone. People turned on her fast. The same ones who had comforted her, defended her, believed her, were now tearing her apart. So you lied to everyone? You let your son suffer while you played the victim? You had an affair and still tried to destroy your ex-husband's life. And the best one, maybe he left because he realized you weren't worth staying for. She called me that night. I let it ring. She called again. And again. Then the texts came. You bastard. I can't believe you did this to me. You ruined my life. I stared at the words, feeling nothing. She had already ruined my life. All I did was return the favor. 2 weeks later, I signed the final divorce papers. My name was clear. My son knew the truth. Everyone knew the truth. And she? She was just a bad memory. I had disappeared once before. But this time? It was for good.